Ooh.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Where are you?
I'm in the new restaurant,
Wow.
but the radiator heat is not working and it's freezing in here.
That's like my liquor store that I'm opening up. No
Oh,
heat. I'm in my apartment right now with a heating pad in my back because it's so fucking cold.
oh my God. I like can't type because my hands are like almost numb. Crazy.
So what's up? How are things?
Things are good. It was just a very busy week in Savannah, and then my executive chef quit yesterday. So I've been
What?
just trying to catch up on some stuff.
Oh my God, what? Oh no.
I think
Bad
like one in
boy.
New York at the Orchard Townhouse. I just think he started with us in February, so the whole time he's worked with us has been the pandemic, and he's just kind of like I think he's like gonna go work at a cafe or something.
Yeah. Yeah. That's too bad though.
Yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. How are you? How's the liquor store?
Good. FlowFab is gonna break the news any minute now, so that's exciting.
Nice.
Um, and it's just kind of never a dull moment. It's been crazy, like between all this shit that we're doing with Speed Rack with Women's History Month, which is great, but also like a lot of work. And I'm kind of like, why are we doing this?
You guys have so much going on.
So much. It's insane. But it's good. And my mom's saying with me, Mom, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, so blah, blah, blah. What was I talking about? I can't remember.
Oh, so much going on, and Speed Rack is a lot happening, and
Yeah, just the liquor store, Speed Rack, Landa. Landa's pretty good, although I'm really pissed at my head bartender currently because she's not really, she's in world class, and that's literally taking up like all of her time. And I'm kind of like, okay, but like our whole thing is like, you don't have to do much. You just have to make menus.
right.
And we'll pay for your health insurance, which is,
I mean,
it's
that's
not
a
so bad.
good deal.
Yeah, and we only do 2 menus a year.
Yes, that's a great deal.
It's a great deal. Yeah. So anyway, so now I have to like sit down, like put the hammer down.
Fun.
Yeah. But good. We got some people rolling in early, which is great. Let me see here. So I want to make sure that like the other day we chatted about kind of starting like kind of like going through the process, right?
Yeah. And I think that hi there. Sorry, lots of deliveries, which is why I'm here today.
Yeah.
Just a casual raw bar seafood sort of thing.
All right, sounds good.
I'm gonna have to shut the door.
I think you got home.
Okay, thanks. I think that starting with ideation is really good because I feel like your process is probably very different than mine because I never start with a concept. I always start with a location. Like I think that would be interesting to see both perspectives. Like some people are like, I wanted to open a bar, like a tiki bar my whole life or whatever. And like, I want to open this restaurant that's like a bistro. And my process is like the opposite of that. And like what the concept is always informed by the real estate and the location. And I generally don't even like open another restaurant until I see something that I like. So I think it's interesting to start from there. And
Great.
feel like we'll have a lot to talk about going from there.
Yeah, right. No kidding. I'm just like taking notes here really quick. Let me see here. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. It's funny because like Leyenda, we got that space because it has the same landlord as Clover Club. So he was just like, sick of having bad tenants. You guys want it?
Oh, nice.
And then Julie and Sue were like, do you want to open up a tequila bar? And I was like, no. So I was trying to open up my own spot. Yeah. Couldn't, obviously, because it's impossible to open places. And I was like, how about we do all Latin spirits? How's that for an idea? Like those paint swatches.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know where to go because it just looks like a construction site everywhere I go. And they're just like trash behind me and glassware everywhere. I mean, I guess it's a good place to be when we're talking about opening a restaurant.
It's true, I know. And I was gonna be over at my shop, and I was just like, no, I'm not going to. I'm going
Freezing your
to.
ass off.
It's so fucking cold.
It's snowing outside right now.
It's snowing outside. Yeah.
So I guess like then after ideation, I mean, I guess it's really like, goes into building out the concept and the concept deck and the pro forma. And I always think like, I always build a concept deck for everything, just to make sure that I really, because like if you don't understand, and a very important part of the process, as you know, is if you don't truly understand the concept and can talk about it in 2 sentences, then it's not going to be successful because it's just not clear and it's not easy to communicate. And that takes a lot of time. And I always feel like a lot of feedback.
Right, totally. And I think that, we can talk more about it in there, but I think that also is just like, you get, it's almost like so many people I think will probably be watching this as well. And anyone who's kind of trickling in here, we're just kind of talking shop and we're going to get going. We've still got 6 minutes until we officially start. Let people trickle in after that. Oh my God, my brain is like a fucking sieve. Literally, it's like in one ear, out the other.
I know exactly how you feel.
Oh my God. Anyway, I'll focus more, and then I'll be good to go here. But yeah, it's I think that that's what I want to say. There's so many people who are in this who are come to the industry from a creative point, right? And people who are like the artist, the cocktail maker, the chef, the whatever, and not that many people who are obsessed with Excel and spreadsheets. Yeah, I know. Thank God for people like you and my business partner, Susan. Thank God, because I'm so bad at that. But it's really important, I think, people don't realize that if you can't explain your concept in less than 2 minutes, if anyone's on going to big investor meetings, on Wall Street, if you can't sell yourself in the space of a Twitter post, then forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's lost interest already. And then they think that you have not spent the time really hashing that out. And, and that kind of lasts forever and needs to be part of that pre-opening sort of branding phase, because if you can't explain it to your staff, then how are your staff going to be able to, represent this identity and even communicate it to the people coming in? That's always, such a huge challenge. You see the servers or the bartenders like, well, it's kind of like this and it's kind of like that. And, we like sustainability, but it's not really clear.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I kind of like vodka. I don't know. Do you like vodka? Let me see here. So when I introduce you just partner founder of TFR, right? Or how do you want me to list you?
I mean, so this is one of those things that I'm actually trying to figure out these days.
Yeah.
This is my daughter's school. I just need a second.
Oh, no worries.
Hello. Hi, this is Natalie Freon.
Everyone else who's kind of trickling in here, Natalie's got a call. We're going to let people kind of slowly but surely trickle their way in. This is a conversation with Natalie Freon and myself, Ivy Mix, talking about the realities of ownership, both the pros and the cons, the good and the bad. There's going to be a lot of bad, probably. A little reality check. So just bear with us as we get going here. I'm going to just do this, tag me, and I'm going to tag Natalie as well. Well, maybe not. Let's see. Not really sure how you do that, but we'll see here. Okay. Welcome everyone. If you have any questions that you want to have us tackle, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm not one of those people that's like, show your face, but Sarah, thanks for showing your face. Appreciate you. If you want to, we love to see everyone involved. And if anyone has any questions, just please pop them in the chat as we're going. This is by no stretch of the imagination like a PowerPoint with, pointing things and like a strict run of show. It's going to be an honest, open conversation about, open a bar, they said. But yeah, so we're just kind of let people kind of cruise on in, which is great. We got a whole bunch of people cruising in early, which for a bartender thing is like, what the hell?
Surprise!
Right. Fun. Oh yeah. So Natalie, what do you think? How should I?
Oh yes. Sorry. Juggling momhood. Probably owner founder of TFR Hospitality, I think works.
Okay.
That's simple and to the point.
Yeah. TFR. Great. Ding, 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 ding. Fun. Yay. Well, 1 minute to go. I cannot believe how many people we have on here early. I'm just like, I guess people had all of COVID to sit around and ideate their spots. And now they're like, all right, need some knowledge. Time to get this information going. Let's see. Okay, so Lauren's on, which is great. Lauren, I'm not sure if you know this, or maybe that's Danny on FOH, how to make me and Natalie viewed on the thing. Maybe I've done it. I'm not sure. But if you know how, get on in there. Make us our faces like that. But if not, that's cool. Okay, good. Thanks, LP. All right. So everyone, welcome. We'll let everyone start trickling in here. We've been allowing you all some trickling. We had a bunch of early people, which I'm happy to see. Bartenders being early on a Tuesday. It's Tuesday right now. Let you all kind of trickle in slowly. We are giving a chat today. We're calling it Owning It, the realities of bar and restaurant ownership, the pros, the cons, the goods, the bads, the unromantic and the romantic, and the realities really mostly. So there's just one now. We got people trickling in and we're just gonna shoot the shit until I feel like it's go time, probably in like 2 minutes. So if you want some water, get some water. This is this weird Zoom purgatory.
Some tequila.
Well, I see
The eyeglasses.
Hi, Mom.
Wait, is your mom really on here?
Yeah, Emma Osborne.
Oh, hey, Emma. Oh, my mom is in my spare bedroom. Oh, cute. Yeah, I actually put on my eyeglasses because Natalie, you're the only people I know that tries to rock eyewear as aggressive as the eyewear I like to rock.
If you're gonna have to wear glasses, they might as well be fun.
Right? Totally. That's what I think too. Let me see here. Gonna make you host. Hold on. Okay. How do I? Hold on, Lauren. I'm going to do it. I'm technologically impaired. Make host. Great. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if anyone here watches the Great British Bake Off, but I am a massive fan and became a huge fan during COVID when, I had ample time to watch pointless TV. Prue, yes, Lynette. I'm so obsessed with Prue. I literally found her glassware line online. She's a fantastic Instagram follow. I'll leave you with that as we get going. All right, so we got people in here, and I'm gonna start, and other people can kind of like trickle on in. So, thank you for being here today, everyone, and joining me and Natalie Freehon on our conversation about bar ownership. My name is Ivy Mix. I own and operate a bar and restaurant called Leyenda in Carroll Gardens. I'm also the co-founder of Speed Rack with Lynette. And I recently opened up a liquor store, which Natalie and I were just joking around because like she's in her new space. I would have been my new space, but it is literally colder. It's so cold. And I am have a heating pad on my back at home. But without much further ado, I want to introduce, for those of you who don't know, Natalie Freehon. She is the owner and operator of TFR Hospitality, of Fat Radish fame, also like one of my favorites, Lower East Side there. And I'm very excited, have always been a huge fan of Natalie's, and you've been a speed rack judge and just an all-around champion of women, especially women owners, in a place where that's just like not that common, for better or for worse, right? So
It's not.
if you want to give a little hello to everyone, then we can kind of get going. Okay, there we go.
It's really nice to be here. I think it's wonderful that you guys at Speed Rack are providing such a wonderful space for us to be able to connect with each other right now. The sadness of lack of women owners is pretty intense. There have been quite a few times in my career over the past couple of years that I've sat down with my husband to just try to make lists of women owners so that I could reach out and connect and, try and identify ways that we can support one another in terms of our success. And it's always so disappointing that it's such a small list because we have to come up against some really, really huge challenges.
Absolutely.
But yeah, as Ivy said, I have TFR Hospitality. I have a restaurant called the Orchard Townhouse in Chelsea. And this will be my new restaurant that opens hopefully in May. SLA, all on the SLA right now. But
we can talk about that at length. Fucking SLA. I just waited a year for my liquor license, so that was really fun. All right, so the way we're kind of going to go through this, everyone, is we're going to talk first off, kind of like the spectrum of trying to open a spot and own a spot, starting from square one, like pre-opening. Do you have a space? Do you have a concept? Going up through concepting, through the idea of partners, through the idea of actually like the soft opening and the opening, and then what will hopefully be a long, long time after, which I think people forget about frequently. Right? So the ideas of delegation and management, et cetera, et cetera. So Natalie, do you want to kind of start off in the beginning stages? Like, let's have a conversation. When you first started your first restaurant, like, how did that go? How do you go about opening a spot?
Well, the first restaurant I owned was the 14th restaurant I opened. So part of the process for me was that I wanted to work for a lot of other people and doing their opening so that I could really understand the process, as a paid education. And because it's overwhelming. There's so many pieces of the puzzle and so many more pieces of the puzzle than you really have any idea of. So I bought the Fat Radish that had already been open in 2017, but it was very much a reopening for that, and then opened some places since then. But the process for me always starts with the real estate, with the space. I'm very driven. It's funny because I'm not a very spiritual person, but there are certain things that really drive me, and I'm very driven by the way space feels, by the energy of the space. And so my process always starts with just looking at spaces. I generally don't even really have a concept in mind because I feel that the concept is really informed by the neighborhood and the location and the shape of the space. And like, is it smaller tables or larger tables? And there's so many things that will then inform the concept.
Totally.
I reach out to real estate brokers like constantly. And I always think that that's a good place to start because it also gets your creative juices flowing.
Totally.
They'll start bringing you to places and you can see these different spaces, and then you just stay in touch with them and they constantly send you stuff. And then you're going to walk into the right space and it's going to hit you and you're like, okay, I'm going to make this work. This is what I see here. And then the concept just like naturally develops for me from the second that I step foot inside.
And that's really unique, I think, because most people out there, probably lots of people watching this, probably have been sitting around and been like, I want to open a bar restaurant like this. Yeah. And then they're going out and trying to find the perfect spot. With Leyenda, we were lucky because Leyenda has the same landlord as Clover Club. So I joined Julie and Susan and Christine. They own Clover Club. I worked there for years. I ended up opening up Leyenda with them because the landlord was like, I'm sick of having crappy tenants that leave me hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. And we're like, okay. But we didn't have a concept really. The space was available, and Julie and Susan were like, "Hey, do you want to open a tequila bar with us?" And I was like, "Ugh, like there's a Dos Caminos in every other corner in the city. Like I don't really want to do that." But I'm interested in all Latin spirits, and that's how Leyenda was born. But a lot of it, the space told us what to do. Like we have this arched windows and doors. Those came in the space, you know. But I think it's an important thing to think about, because you can't, like, if you're like, I'm going to open up a sushi sake bar, and you find a space that's available and it's next to 6 other sushi sake bars, it's probably not a good place to open, right? So, you know, I think that that's a really interesting thing to look at. You know, someone put here in the chat, like, how do you find the right location for opening up a bar and restaurant? I mean, your real estate agent will probably end up hating you at a certain point, or maybe not, but going to check out spaces is a really good way of figuring it out. And if you don't know the neighborhood, like you have to go and eat in all the places, drink in all the places, go get one of those club clickers that clicks people and sit for an hour outside your spot and just click the people that are going by. And
go on off hours. I mean, like, go Sunday night and go on Monday at 4:00. You know, that's really important, because everywhere in the city is busy on a Friday and Saturday night.
Right.
But that's not what sustains you. So you know, that's really important. And one thing to note about the concept, again, is what I see so frequently with friends that are showing me their ideas for restaurants they want to open and bars they want to open, is they have such a clear idea of what they want that no matter what space you have, it's going to be putting a square peg in a round hole.
Yes.
It's not being informed by the physical space and the physical community. And you have to be able to be sort of like flexible, and you have to be mobile, and you have to be innovative through that process, and kind of be okay with it not being the thing you dreamt of 10 years ago.
Well, because people will the neighborhood will tell you. So, yeah. And that's the other thing. Like when we opened up Leyenda, I was like, oh, we're going to have I mean, now it's COVID, so like, thank God we changed, but like all family style seating. It's going to be like, you're going to come and drink and like stand at the bar and like drink and like eat some like tapas style food. And everyone came in on Tinder dates and won 2 tops and a bigger food menu. And we were like, cut those tables in half, like, you know, like get another stand, you know, and we, you know, you kind of like have to learn from your surroundings. But I think that analogy of trying to stick a round stick in a square hole, round peg in a square hole, is so perfect, because there's so many places that I see open where I'm like, how exactly did you think this was the right A, vibe for the space, B, you know, everything. Like in the liquor store that I just opened, the other way of going about it and finding a space is going to a neighborhood where there's nothing there.
Yeah.
Like, okay, do people here really need, is there a need? I happen to live in the neighborhood where I'm opening up my liquor store in Crown Heights, but I know for a fact that I can't go out to a liquor store and buy what I want, and it's a pain in the ass. That's how Julie opened Clover Club. She couldn't go to a bar in her neighborhood. She was like, demand, need to meet demand, you know, let's do it. And that's another different way of going about it. Like if you're like, I know I want to open X thing, then, and you don't have a space, you haven't found a space, but you're looking for one, you really should try to look at the places that need it. Which sounds obvious, but I don't think that people necessarily think about that all the time.
Well, and it's, you know, there's 2 sides of that coin as well. You know, there's a lot of neighborhoods that could benefit from a bar or a restaurant opening. But being the first one can sometimes be a challenge, because you have a neighborhood that's used to not participating in keeping their, you know, the money in that particular neighborhood. And, you know, that's one of those instances when we get to talking about raising money where you need to be really careful in building it out, that you have enough money to sustain maybe 6 months of a very, very difficult
yes.
A lift, because that lift is much harder when you're the first bar in a neighborhood than say if you're the third bar in a neighborhood where everybody's already coming. People are always like blown away when I'll be in, we have a restaurant in Savannah, and I'll be in Savannah and we talk about restaurant real estate in New York. And I'm like, no, I never want to open a restaurant that there's not a restaurant on the same block. And people in places that are not New York City are really thrown by the fact that it's not competition. Then that's two restaurants that are driving business to this neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it's an interesting sort of development strategy when you think of, do I want to be at the forefront of this neighborhood development, or do I want to kind of ride the wave after it's already started? Because it's two very different business models.
So I think that's really smart. So let's talk about money, because you cannot open a bar or a restaurant or anything without money. That last thing you just said about make sure you've got money in the bank because you're going to go through some hard times. I can tell you that I have such a small amount of money in the bank for the liquor store that I'm like using all of the strings I have to be like, me, give me terms. Because those of you who don't know, usually when you open up a new liquor account, you have to do COD or cash on delivery, because they're like, we don't know you. You got to give us our money now. Whereas if you show that you're like a good bill paying lady, they will give you 30-day terms. You can earn money in 30 days and then give it back. But it's tough because I didn't think that COVID was going to happen. But we signed our lease 13 months to the day before we got approved for our liquor license, which is a disaster.
Long time without a liquor license.
Long time to pay rent. It's a long time to pay rent. But let's talk about getting money, gathering money, getting investors. How do you, because you're a business woman.
I like the business side of things. I love my Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah.
I saw the questions in the chat about, having your own personal money and your own personal money involved. I always advise against using a lot of your own money. It's a big risk. And I advise that, and then I seem to do it all the time. But, the important thing is you need to at least have a little bit of money so you can start building out your idea. You need to have enough money to do the research, and it doesn't need to be significant, just so you can grow that, because you're not going to be able to raise money until you actually really understand the market needs. So if you find, okay, I want to open a restaurant in the West Village. So I'm looking at, I am opening a restaurant in the West Village.
Speaking from recent experience.
Okay. So I looked at locations in the West Village for ages and ages. And as I said, I didn't have a concept. I just wanted to find the right space. So I find the space and I know how much it costs, but I also have done the market research, and I know all of the, the comp sets. I know what all the comps are in the neighborhood and how much rent is. And then that's a really good place to start, when you at least know, I have an idea that this is what my rent is going to be in this neighborhood. And from there, you have to kind of work through a brief concept, not like the specific concept. Is it going to be a bar with food? Is it just going to be a bar? Is it going to be a bar with a full liquor license? Is it going to be a sit-down restaurant with a full menu, or is it going to be more like casual raw bar? Because as we all, and like, do you want to have high-end wine because you're in a neighborhood where people spend a lot of money on wine? Without even knowing ideologically, like what you want your concept to be, you have to at least understand those things in order to understand what your guest average is going to be. At the end of the day, we know that the guests are what, we get money from guests. So we need to understand and have some sort of idea of how much each person would spend. You can have a bar that has a $30 guest average, and you can have a restaurant that has a $180 guest average. And so that's
right.
You're making a lot more money per square foot when the guest average shifts. So you have an idea then of what the rent is going to look like. You have a sort of idea of, you want it to be a sit-down restaurant. I'd like the guest average to be this many people. And then you start to develop the idea of like, okay, there's this, it's 1,200 square feet. I can put this many tables, but I can put some high tops, and we can have standing, and understand your capacity. And what drives everything is going to be your capacity. How many people you can get into the restaurant, what the how many people you think will be there a day, and how much money are they going to spend. And then that then informs what your labor cost is going to look like, and how many people you need to employ. And so between your labor and your rent and understanding your guest average, you've got like some things just really nailed down.
Right.
I built a pro forma template I built two different ones. One is like a more simplistic, just overall year summary. And then one is a seasonal shift with 4 different revenue and payroll models that you can actually shift week by week. And it's pretty crazy. But I also share them with anybody. So if anybody wants it, you're free to shoot me an email, Natalie@thefat and I will send it to you. But that's a really good place to start because you can just start playing with your numbers. And then you get a sense of exactly how much money you're going to make. When you know how much money you're going to make, it's much easier for you to figure out then how many shares you need to give people that are investing.
Yeah.
So if you make $500,000 a year in revenue, you can't say, I need $1 million of pre-opening money from this investor and I'm going to give them 10% of the restaurant because they're never going to make their money back. So you've got your sort of like summary pro forma done. And we all know this is fake information.
Yeah.
Real information. You're not going to be, you're not going to have to stick to that. This is first draft. So you've got that. And then, you just have to kind of, depending on what kind of person you are and what kind of place you want to open, you'll have an idea of how much money it costs to do that. Like you can open a restaurant and spend $12 million, or you can open a place and spend $250,000.
Right.
And what you think your revenue is going to be is going to also help drive what you think you need in the pre-opening costs.
Yeah.
And then
So
do those.
Yeah. So going off that, I think that something that I was told, which I wish I had done, if you're interested in opening a place and you're concepting it, there's this thing, sweat equity, that gets tossed around a lot, especially to the creatives of the world. Hey, you put in the money. Hey, that's your money. Or you put in the time, that's your version of money. I own you for the foreseeable future. Sometimes sweat equity can work out. Frequently it cannot. And I think there's a very good reason. And again, when someone told my mom, who's doing dishes behind me, my mom told me when I got involved with Leanda, she was like, put money in. I was like, well, I don't have any money. And she's like, get some, get yourself a seat at the table. Like even if it's $5,000, put some skin in the game. And I wish I had done that in retrospect. Could have gotten myself a point more or two. I fought for my 15% of Leanda for sweat equity, but Leanda was a very tiny bar restaurant. Like our build up was $250,000, which is not a lot of money. We had one investor, right? So like all that stuff is very, is awesome, but I think it's really important when you're going into these things of realizing that if you get Natalie's Excel sheet and you're like, this is like fucking calculus and what the hell is this? You should really think about getting yourself a business partner that understands Excel sheets the way that Natalie understands Excel sheets. A bunch of geeky bartenders opening up a bar together who don't know anything about business is bad.
Yes.
Right.
And that's the situation where you really get taken advantage of with the sweat equity piece. Because there's so many things that go into that. A lot of times people with sweat equity, because there's no money in the game, also have to be on a vesting schedule. And a vesting schedule means that they can literally take away your equity within that period before you're fully vested. So you come up with this brilliant concept, you put it into play, it's awesome. They give you 15% of sweat equity, you're like psyched. But then in the operating agreement that you weren't really that familiar with, it says that you are only really starting with 5% equity and you don't have 15% equity until 5 years from now. So like there's so many different ways. And I think that a little bit of skin in the game, what you're saying, Ivy, is so crucial, because especially when you're developing your operating model and your operating agreement, to have the voting rights, and voting rights are really important, does not cost a lot of money. Like for instance, the Orchard Townhouse that we opened, it cost about $1 million to open. We did not raise $1 million. I'm going to tell you about a few other strategies that work, but I put in $10,000 and Phil put in $10,000, my partner, but we still owned 75% of the business, because if you put some money in, then you get to control exactly who owns what and how much, and you get to vote on it. And voting rights are a very important thing, and frequently people with sweat equity don't even have voting rights in making major decisions. Exactly.
And not to beat a dead horse, but on that note, get a lawyer If you are a bartender watching this, you probably know some lawyers who sit at your bars. Get them, do them a solid. They'll probably do you a solid. Just get someone to read your operating agreement and get an operating agreement before you start, before you even go down the path. Like, get an operating agreement.
You need something signed,
Sealed, delivered, and like expect you're going to have the worst divorce of all time with these people. It's like a prenup. Like, just get it done and make sure you have a lawyer who can, if they don't necessarily have to advocate for you, but at the very least they can say, you're kind of getting fucked here.
Yeah.
Like, you might want to look at this. And I think that that's really important. What next?
Well, just to like kind of wrap up the raising money thing. So you've got your, if you have your pre-opening budget and you understand that you want to put in a few $1,000s, and you found your business partner, as Ivy suggested brilliantly, that is somebody that does the business numbery sort of stuff. And then you're together and you know exactly what you want to value your company at. Then you just have to make sure that you've got that Excel document, you've got that pro forma, that you've got a bit of a deck. I think a deck is incredibly important, and people really underestimate the power of it being really pretty. Like, spend the time, do a bio on yourself, have a nice photo, a bio on your partner, a nice photo. And then even, it doesn't need to be the specific concept of what it is that you are going to produce, but, then do like a food page that shows, this is the kind of food that I like or that I'm inspired by. And the same with beverage and, beverage partners you worked with in the past or programs you've done in the past, to just show you who you are, because you are selling yourself. There is no bar yet. So you are selling yourself. It needs to be pretty. You should spend some time on it. Like Canva is an amazing tool to use these days for that stuff. It's super user friendly, and make something great and put your financials in there, drop it in, make it very, very brief, so that when you reach out to some of your friends or friends of friends, or you go anywhere, you can just say, oh, hey, like, let me share this with you. And maybe you want to share it with some of your friends. And then it starts to get out there, and then people want to actually call you and have a conversation about it.
Precisely. And I think that, in the thing we were talking about before we kind of got started here is that on top of this really beautiful deck that you have, if you can't explain your concept in the amount of space of a Twitter post, then you're in trouble, because people have a short time frame. And like, once you get around people who actually have like serious money, there are people out there who like invest in shit. That's just what they do. And then they will give you about as much time as it takes you to tell you your 160 characters and be like, this is my thing. Now will you look at my deck? And if you're like, it's kind of like natural wine, and I think we'll have some squid ink risotto, ?
Like the specifics, you have just like a few words that like really define what you want to do. And as we had discussed before, you might not have your specific concept completely identified yet, but there are things that are just who you are. Like, for instance, I like to build places that are comforting and familiar, like neighborhoody, don't overeducate the guest, familiar items on the menu, with sustainable ingredients that really get to shine, and simplicity. Those are like all my keywords that I always use, and you can just put them in different little, in different sentences, and they kind of work across the board. Because at the end of the day, if it's you, one person, and you're not a hospitality group, generally there's like a specific kind of bar or restaurant that you like, that no matter if it's going to be a raw bar or it's going to be a cocktail bar, it's going to still have the same components that make up that specific idea. And so really honing in, like, who am I? What do I like? And what do I want to build? Those are really important things prior to putting that deck together. And then when you're going to raise money, and then when you're raising money, you can go to 30 different people and get $5,000 from them a piece. There's so many ways you could crowdfund these days. There's so many ways of raising money. And don't feel that you need to have raised your full tranche prior to starting. As long as you have enough money to put down your security deposit and secure your lease, and have some money to get started, just take the chance. I mean, really, at the end of if you wait till you raise all your $500,000, you could have already used up your free rent period, and you just got to get going and get moving. And a lot of it is like, you got to be fearless and know that most people do end up failing at some point at this. And you just got to be like, okay, that's fine. This is not all my money. I can live. I will survive if this fails. And you got to know that you're just going to go for it. And you are just It's
Totally.
tough. Like you got to go right out of the gate and get started because you have to
Yeah.
take advantage of every moment. And you'll just keep raising money as you're going. I mean, I was raising money until 2 months after we opened at the Orchard Townhouse.
That's amazing. I didn't know that. That's amazing. It can be scary, right? But the other thing is that like frequently you can get into this catch-22 of investors won't give you money because they don't know the space, right? And the space won't give you the space because you don't have the money, right? So you can kind of get into these weird to and fro's, and I mean, it's tough, and I don't really have the exact answer for that. But if you find a space that you like, you have to move quick because you're probably not the only one, and that can be tricky. It's really helpful to have relationships with your real estate agent for that reason, which is kind of like, hey, like we're gonna move on this. Give me some time. But do you have any advice on kind of like on that stage?
Yeah, that's one of those things that we briefly discussed about, like just having a little bit of your own personal money.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes while you're negotiating the lease, like, okay, I love this spot, I want it. Oftentimes you can pay like $5,000 to the landlord to just pull it from the market while you're negotiating the lease terms. And so being able to have access to that cash very quickly is super important because, you know, spaces go so fast in New York. There were, when I signed the lease, the week I signed the lease of the place I'm in right now, there were 9 offers in a pandemic in 1 week. So like these things happen really quickly and you've got to be ready to move and you have to be aggressive But just because you feel that it's the right space, if the and they pull it off the market while you're negotiating, if the landlord is not giving you what you need, do not take the space. This is a relationship that lasts a really long time and this is one area where you can get very screwed, and you do need to be pretty careful because if you sign a personal guarantee on one of these leases and you have 8 years left in your lease, you could be on the hook for millions and millions and millions of dollars. And that's a personal liability that lives with you forever. And you need to declare bankruptcy to get away from that. So making sure, like, take it off the market, put that deposit in and negotiate your lease, have a real estate lawyer. It is also one of those investments that you need to make. That's usually a personal investment in the beginning.
Yeah.
You can get great ones where you put a $4,000 retainer down, and that usually gets you through the whole kind of initial phases until you're ready to sign. And so you put down your deposit to get them off, and then you paid your lawyer. And then once you get to that place where, okay, I'm almost going to sign, you know when it's ready. Like, okay, maybe I don't sign for 2 weeks, but it's one thing we're working through. And that's when your investors will come and see the space. You show them photos, you do this. And then it becomes very easy. I don't want to say easy. It's never easy to raise money, especially when you're a woman. It becomes easier to put something in front of somebody because it's physical.
Mm-hmm.
You can talk about the things that are in the neighborhood, make sure you have your comps in the deck. Like, this is what's happening here. This restaurant, of course, Via Carota was in every single one of my decks because it's a block away and they make like $27 million a day.
Right.
So that, becomes really intriguing.
If nothing else, will be spillover.
Exactly. And that's really always, if you open something next to a busy place, that's great because there's a lot of times you've got wait lists that are 3 hours long and nobody wants to wait. But so then you start raising your money and then just go. I mean, get your liquor attorney with your the first sum of money you get a liquor attorney and get your liquor license in, because you usually are able to negotiate a free rent period with most landlords. A lot of negotiations with landlords now and leases are very different than they used to be.
No kidding.
And super creative and innovative, but liquor licenses are also taking 8 months. So like the second you get some cash, get a liquor attorney, give them their retainer.
We have the same attorney.
We do.
Attorneys, they're a whole like conglomerate over there.
Oh yeah, I have 2 liquor attorneys, one for easy things and one for hard things.
Yeah.
But then you get that application in, get on the community board. It doesn't even matter if you've signed your lease. You can still go in front of the community board and you can still submit your application, because a lot of us, especially ones that are running bars, put something in the lease that says if you are unable to attain a liquor license, that you can walk away from the lease without any penalty.
Yeah, make sure you put that in there. And a good lawyer will tell you that that's what's up. One more thing before we kind of move on from this section is I highly recommend, if you're like know the neighborhood you want to move into, start going and not everywhere in the world has community boards like New York City does, but if you have a place where the community board gets to essentially yay or nay your right to open a business, start going to those meetings before you ever go for the first time and say, hey, I'm Ivy, I'm trying to open a bar. And everyone's like, who the hell are you? You know, if you kind of like make yourself a face there, like share your opinion on different things, people are more like, oh, hey, I know her. She's been to the meetings before. So I think that's really helpful.
Go in front of the community board, be succinct. And this is one of those moments that knowing how to describe your concept in a Twitter feed is really, really important, because sometimes they will absolutely pummel you.
Yeah.
Not to scare you. And another
what they do, they're like, what is this? How do you mean? I thought you said you were a bakery and now all of a sudden you're a tequila bar, and you're like, wait, what? No, we're just gonna serve coffee. You know, it's like it's crazy.
Precinct also, like usually your local police precinct, you know, has like those community nights.
Yeah.
Those are also really good to go to, and you get to know the local precinct, and then usually you get to know the very active characters in the neighborhood who are also generally on the community board. So if they see that you want to participate in the actual safety and development of your neighborhood, that usually goes a really long way.
Yeah. Someone in there saw a thing about renting versus owning. In New York City, it's extremely rare that you're going to own. I mean, like buildings here cost tens of millions of dollars. If you're in different places, I think that owning can be good. I have a friend in Bushwick who's actually my investor at Leyenda. He owns the building that his bar, Father Knows Best, is in. And it's convenient because he's the landlord and his bar pays him rent, right? So that's pretty cool. That being said, when shit breaks, it's 100% your problem. So that's kind of like a whole different going into the next bit.
Like a bar or restaurant, it's 100% your problem anyways, because your leases really say that, you know, they don't cover anything. I do have to say though, I think that one of the only ways that we can make our business model sustainable is by finding the power and the resources to invest in the real estate. The Orchard Townhouse, we own the building for the Orchard Townhouse. But there's a great way of doing that, and that's finding development partners that already own other small buildings, that find it, you know, it's good for them to have a partner who is operating the retail space, because then you have a vested interest on both sides of the coin to be successful and have a long-term model that lasts for a long time. So, you know, while the building was $7 million, I certainly didn't have $7 million. So we have development partners, and then we have investors in the building. And so it's structured just like any other business LLC would be structured. But I own, you know, 20% of that building. So it gives me a seat at the table when it comes to negotiating my own lease, which I also still had to negotiate my own lease because of the investors, and you still have a duty to pay the investors in the building. But it does become really valuable because, you know, you're going to pay your rent no matter what if it's not a pandemic, which means if you're a partner in the building, you're at least making a passive income, and a passive income really, really helps with your growth and development if you want to own a lot of things. It also gives you equity, and you have something to take loans against. And I am a firm believer in financing and in loans if the terms are right. And usually you can get the terms right if you own something. And so it really does help get you money much, much easier if you're collateralized.
But that's the other catch-22 is like, if you don't own something and the bank doesn't know you, it is very hard to get a loan.
It is very, very hard. But there is the other thing called equipment financing, which is my favorite.
Yes.
Equipment financing is the best. Anything that they can collateralize, you know, that's like, as you know, like if you buy an ice machine, not that I would ever buy one because I only lease them, but you know, if you buy something that is of value that could be resold and collateralized, you can find equipment financing company that can give you pretty good terms, and they will pay everything up front for you, and then you pay them monthly, like 3 years, 4 years, and so then that reduces your pre-opening costs significantly. I mean, I did over $200,000 of equipment financing for the Orchard Townhouse, like down to the banquettes and the tables and the chairs and the millwork, equipment. And so there's a lot of creative ways that you can handle that with different terms. But on that note, just talking about that, one thing is really important just for everyone to know is work on your credit now.
Yeah.
Because they will check your personal credit for every single thing you do for the business if you are an owner in the business. And if you have a personal credit score of 600, you're not getting anything.
Yeah.
You got to build it.
Yeah. For better or for worse. So let's talk a bit about, you've done all this stuff, right? We've gotten the investors, we've gotten the space, we've gotten the money, and now we're open. What's those first, well, really, I think like it's always difficult, but I think the first few months is extremely crazy. Like it's kind of like Survivor as far as staff goes. Like people are constantly getting kicked off the island and like just doing like all sorts of stuff. It's crazy. The honeymoon phase with your partners can end like pretty abruptly.
Very quickly.
It can go from, what's great, we did it, we got a great write-up in, you know, like Bone App, we like did all the good, so great, and all of a sudden people are like, it's not great. So I want to talk a little bit about partners. You know, we talked earlier about the operating agreement. I can't stress how important it is to have an operating agreement and have a really clear outlook of roles and responsibilities within the company.
Absolutely.
So if it's like, okay, no one ordered from Southern Wine and Spirits this week. Now we have no whiskey. What the hell? Oh, well, that's definitely Ivy's job. You know, if people's roles and jobs aren't clearly defined, things will slip through the cracks. Similarly, if people are like, oh, we're all just getting it done, like we're all hard workers, we all put in the good work, it doesn't work that way, because something will get missed, someone will get pissed, and then you have animosity. And animosity with a business partner is worse than your romantic partner, because you can't just kiss and make up. It just stifles.
It festers, that resentment of one another, just like it grows and grows and grows. And a lot of that develops frequently as well from not having, from your perspective, equal job roles, you know, and like I do operations and my previous partner does design. And so like design is over at some point, but I'm still working for the next 10 years. And so that started to really upset me. And I started to develop a little bit of resentment about that. And it wasn't something that I had thought about before, because I had never considered how important really a partner is, which sounds so silly to not have considered it. But I was just so pumped to like own my own restaurant and do it. You know, we all make some mistakes, and not that that was a mistake, but we all learn from our experiences, I guess I should say.
And it can be really awkward, you know, it can be really awkward, and that's okay. You know, you kind of just have to like go forth and go forward. One of the things I think is really important about just owning and operating a business is, which I've already said, and I can't stress it enough, please don't open a business with your intellectual doppelganger. Like, just, it's not going to work, right? You need someone who complements your skills, right? And you really, really, really need a Natalie who knows how to really understand the business, at least to start off. Like, I can tell you that when I first went into opening up Leyenda, I was like, can someone please tell me what a pro forma is? Because I have no idea. And I was like, P&L, like, kind of. And I learned, you know, in my liquor store, I'm not the one that made the P&L, but I can read it now. And I've invested in other companies, and I know how that works. I've given myself that language that I didn't have before, but I wouldn't have had that without my first business and having partners that, you know, are good at filing taxes on time.
And you know, there's creative ways of dealing with that as well. Like if you don't want to have a financy partner, you don't have to do that, because you can have your partners, obviously, like, just don't go for people just like you, as Ivy said, because you're just going to butt heads. It's going to be terrible. But one of my friends, what they had done recently, which it's also seems like, why didn't we all think of this before, is even in small restaurants, you can do things like board of directors, you know, where you give maybe 1 point or 1% of distributions, you know, to 3 people, 4 people that provide a skill that you don't have. Like this person is in finance and they're really great at understanding it, but I don't really need a lot of support, but I'll give them 1 point so that once a month they can answer my questions.
Oh, seriously. I mean, I have to say that in the future, if I open up another bar restaurant, now I'm engaged to an electrician, thank God. So that solves one problem. But I will find a plumber and be like, you want 5%? And 5% means you don't jerk me around because I'm a woman. And you come, even if it's 3 a.m. and I've got shit up to my ankles. Like, you still got to be there because you have 5% of this business, right? And I wish I'd done that because it's happened to me and there's no one to call. And I'm just like,
oh, exactly.
Oh no.
Build that out really, like you can have an electrician partner and a plumber partner and a finance partner and a lawyer partner. My good friend who did this, it's literally anybody he would ever need in order to help with this consulting, and consulting with the business, but he doesn't pay any money up front, and that keeps your operational costs pretty low. Lawyers get very expensive very quickly.
Boy, howdy. That is the truth. That is the truth. And so moving on to the next phase, right? We're kind of like 2 years in, we're feeling good. When we had a call the other day talking about this, you're only as good at your business as how happy you are. There's a lot of, and luckily people are finally starting to talk about in this industry, but like, with chefs and bartenders, there's always been this like, oh my God, I worked 72 hours last week. And like, I didn't sleep. And this is my 18th cup of coffee today. And like, shit's crazy. And I call it glorifying the busy. I hate it. I hate glorifying the busy. I personally work hard to play hard. That's always been my mentality. And we opened Leyenda in the spring, May 2015. And I remember distinctly, and Lynette's on here, she remembers, it didn't go very well that much at first. Like I was still running speed rack. I was flying 150,000 miles a year and I was opening up a new business, right? It was, and the pros were, here's Ivy, she's this face traveling around the whole country and the world, repping her new bar. But the detriment was she's not at the bar, right? And now she is at the bar, but she's, I was like flying into speed rack for a day, flying back, going straight to work. And I was pretty miserable, honestly. I was miserable. My partners were like pretty pissed. They were like, they knew what they had gotten themselves into, but at the same token, they were like, what is this? Like, you're exhausted, So 2018 was the year after like having some pretty sad come to Jesus moments of like, I'm burning the candle at both ends and I'm not doing anything that well. I'm doing okay, but I'm not like knocking it out of the park. I was like, 2018 is the year of delegation. I'm going to learn how to delegate. And like opening up a bar is fine. Opening up a restaurant is fine. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to keep on doing things, you have to learn how to delegate. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that, Natalie, about like, especially when you own multiple places, how do you go about hiring and how do you go about being comfortable to have your businesses to be able to step away to your family, or to different things?
It starts before the hiring, really.
Mm-hmm.
It's identifying that you want to have those boundaries. And I was, I participated in glorifying the overworking for years.
Yeah, so did I.
When I opened Ludlow House, my daughter was 4 years old and I was working 95 hours a week and I was leaving before she woke up and I was home after she went to sleep. And that is no way to live. it is just no way to live. I was unhappy. I was so depressed. I was stressed out. And I missed my effing daughter. Like she's my daughter. I had her so that I could hang out with her and I couldn't even tuck her in at night. And that was my real come to Jesus moment. And we can all say like hindsight is 2020. We can all say like, I wish I had known before. I wish I had learned before, but we all know that this is talking about this sort of thing and our health and wellness and our mental stability. This is new for all of us. And, that was about 5 years ago when this started to happen at Ludlow House. And so it was only part of the conversation. It only just become part of the conversation. So identifying what your boundaries are and what you require in your life is very, very important. I know I know exactly what it is that I want. Sundays are like my day with my family. Everyone knows not to call me unless it's super, super, super important. And then you set things up so that you can achieve your goals with your boundaries. And this is like hiring people you trust, which is very difficult to trust people, especially all of us probably on this chat that have been around for a little while, where we think it's easier to just do it ourselves than to teach anyone how to do it. And like whenever you see somebody making a mistake, you're just like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to do it myself. This is just a pain in the ass. And we need to get out of that mindset even before we actually have that time off, right? So we need to start to accept that mistakes are going to happen, and then that's going to be okay. And we're going to be there to guide those people through those mistakes and put in the time, the real time, to train people what you want them to do so that you can delegate to them. Because if you just delegate to somebody that like, they might not know exactly how you like this done. Like they don't know exactly how you want the fridges to look all the time. And then they just, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to be like, what is this? Why does this look like this? And then I'm going to get worked up. And then I'm going to be like, okay, fine, I'm just going to do it myself. Whereas what I could have done was take the time, which is a commitment, and it's expensive. Time is expensive, but you spend it once and then you get so much of your own time back. So you then spend the time training the people in the way that you like to do things and what your expectations are, and having those expectations be laid out very, very clearly, so that there's not room for interpretation that will frustrate you in the end. It's very important. I think that when you're owning and running a bar, organization is important, but being able to communicate what your expectations are in terms of that organization is really important. So you have to set yourself up to delegate. And there is a commitment in the beginning in order to do that. And then if you make that commitment, you will start to find people that really appreciate the boundaries and the work that you have put in, that you are willing to sit with them time and time again and go over like, okay, well, this is how you read a financial model. And like, let's do it again. And let's do it again. Or, this is how I like the doors to get open during the day. Like, this is what I think an aesthetic checklist needs to look like. And if you spend that time and you literally like put together the documentation, that's when you start to get the people that walk through the door that actually appreciate that and will execute it. And then it becomes easier to delegate, but you have to walk away. There were moments where I'd literally I'd give somebody a job and I didn't need to leave the restaurant, but I would leave the restaurant for a while so that it could get done without me constantly looking over the shoulder and managing everybody, because I can be a little bit controlling, and anyone on here that knows me probably knows that about me. And so oftentimes I have to actually physically remove myself from a situation in order to allow the, people to do the things that I've delegated to them. And that's, knowing who you are is also kind of, very important in that process.
True. It's true. And like, I think that, not so much for women really, but, there is a point where you have to decide, as an owner, if you want to be completely synonymous with your establishment. When I first opened Leyenda, people were like, oh, you're not there? I'm not going to go in then. Like, why would I go if you're not there? I'm like, well, because it's a really good bar with really good people and really good drinks and food. You should go. It doesn't matter if I'm not there. And for me, like, we all have ego. And whereas, I think for women it's easier to kind of be like, look at my baby walking on its own. It's so beautiful. But there was a little bit of like empty nest, where I was like, oh shit, they don't need me at all, do they? Yeah. And like this very much like, ugh. But still, like the other thing is not getting that upset. Like every time I walk in, I see something and I'm like, I will forever be the only person that notices things this small.
Oh my God. It's like, yes. Oh.
I'm like, okay, whatever. There's a shoe mark on the wall. Like, why hasn't anyone gotten the magic eraser and gotten that thing off? Or like, I have this one server that just never remembers to turn on the lights outside. Like ever, never. I don't think she's ever done it once. And every time I walk up and I'm like, oh, lights aren't on. I bet you Sid's working, And I walk in like, Sid, the lights, And then, so understanding that sometimes you'll just be like, what the fuck? But
to be that way. And like,
but what the fuck is better than having a life? Better than not having a life.
Exactly. Done exactly the way you want it to be done always, because it's not you doing it. And we have to respect that people are different from us. And as long as we're achieving our goal, and representing ourselves as well as we can, like this is as good as we can do it, and this is as well as I can delegate, and this person is doing as much as they can. We have to let the small shit slide. I mean, it's so much like parenting, and I have to say, being a mom has changed the way that I operate restaurants dramatically. But sometimes you just got to let it slide. And I think one of the things that is also important for me when it comes to delegation is my job is very different from the job that of the people that I'm delegating to. And I remember when I was like doing the job that my colleague Michelle Watanabe does, and it's like a lot of stuff. And so when I get really upset that this one tiny little thing was done, I always have to remind myself, like, this girl is really busy. She has a lot of stuff on her plate. She has 17 checklists. And I need to keep in mind that maybe this one priority of this scuff mark on the wall is like 27 things down in the priority list because she wants to execute, this beautiful dream of mine. And I need to be grateful for that and appreciative of that in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Totally. So you are in your new space. I'm about to go to my new space. The time is of the essence, but with the last 5 or 6, 7 minutes or so, I want to kind of open it up for any last questions. I see this one question. Where did your inspiration come from?
Mom.
Oh, Mom. Okay, go ahead.
Well, my mom is pretty inspirational, so I think it's quite funny that she asked that. I want to build restaurants in a restaurant group that is, that are sustainable models with participation and almost like a co-op model. And that's my inspiration. Is I love eating in restaurants and going to bars, and I want the people that own them and operate them and work in them to feel like it's a value for them to do that work, so that we together collectively can love eating in restaurants and going to bars even more. I hate the fact that oftentimes we feel like we're the peons, and we just we keep working so hard, and then these big restaurant groups make all the money and we barely survive, and that it's not even a healthy working environment. And we do so much to provide service to other people that enjoy receiving that service, but it's not reciprocal. And I think we need to make it more of an environment where we all get to do something that we love because we love doing this, and it actually works financially for us. Because we haven't talked about money. I mean, we talked about money here, but like most employees and partners have a really difficult time talking about money. And the fact is, this is a business at the end of the day.
Thank you.
And I don't just show up to work because I really like restaurants. I show up to work because I need to support my family, because I don't want to work when I'm 75. Like, I want to go on a vacation. I haven't had one of those in a long time. So we need to be realistic, and I want people that own and work in restaurants to make money and have a really good time doing it.
Yeah. Agreed. It's funny. As we're talking about this, and I made the joke about the electrical thing, all the power just went out at my store because it's fucking freezing, and my partner plugged in another space heater.
Space heaters are the worst.
They're the worst. So mentee resources. This is part of something that we're launching this week, called the Speed Rack Advisory Squad. And we're doing a bunch of pairing within Speed Rack, matching people within the industry in things of their interest. We're already matched up for this one, but we're doing it again in the fall. So check out that. And then we're consistently posting about mentorship opportunities and mentor classes on our social media at SpeedRack.
Just a note about that, you'd be surprised at how willing people are to have conversations with you.
Yes.
And to support one another. I do it all the time. And take this as there's consulting, and you should get paid for consulting. Don't ever give your shit away for free. It took a long time to get that stuff in your brain. Do not give it away for free. But there are moments where, I love to give advice to people who want to own bars and restaurants and need help. And I know a lot of other owners or people in finance or even lawyers who are willing to give that advice. Just ask somebody, if they be like, oh, listen, would you have a few minutes? I could just maybe bend your ear. Maybe I can take you out to dinner and you could tell me how this thing works. You'd be surprised at how kind we can be to one another in this industry. And my mom always said, you never get what you don't ask for, so you might as well try.
Someone said the other day, I was talking to someone, they said I'm gonna butcher it, but it's the unquestioning kid goes hungry, I think was it. ask questions, like get in there. Yeah, so let's do these last two questions. Do you need an MBA? No,
Hell no.
you don't need an MBA. If you live frequently, especially if you're a woman, or maybe come from the non-white male community, there are lots of resources that actually teach free business classes to women. They're in New York City. I know there's different, like most major cities have free business classes that they teach to women.
Small business center in every single city does that. It's great.
Right. It's great. And it gives you like the tools to at least understand, you know? But when in doubt, like if you're like a young up and coming chef or bartender, you're the creative and you know a young up and coming manager who like gets off on inventory, you know, like
Out there.
yeah, they're out there. Partner with that person, you know, and then you can take that class and understand for yourself because you should. But you certainly don't need an MBA. And then in terms of clear roles, how do you ask to take task off someone's list? Oh, like, well, usually what I recommend having, and no one ever does this, but in your contract, you'll have like, oh, partners meet this frequently. It never happens. Or it happens way more than that at the beginning. And then like, it's not like every quarter on a Wednesday, we have a meeting. Like, no. But it's important. I don't really have a good answer to that. Do you have an answer for that?
Well, so, this is where kind of like voting rights are super.
Yes.
And I know that that's taking it like a step further, but if you have voting rights, then that means you have a larger seat at the table. So then, it's always good to kind of approach it softly. And just like, hey, like, does everybody have time? Let's have a quick chat. It's been a while. Or, there's a few things that I'd like to address. My partner used to always tell me do the sandwich. So you talk about something really nice in the beginning, and then you very, very succinctly and efficiently discuss the issue. And then you finish it off with something nice about how well everybody's doing. And, the weather is beautiful and the restaurant's succeeding. But you just have to be really clear about it. And I find that it's very easy to put it in terms of my voice. Like if I want P&L review to come off of my partner's list, I would say, I have really been enjoying reading P&Ls. And I feel like because I'm the person that's here day to day, that I might benefit from spending more time doing this. And so I was, I think that maybe this could work out, if for both of us, if we moved this to my task list, and then maybe this other thing, maybe would you mind taking care of this as an exchange? But don't beat around the bush and don't pussyfoot. It doesn't get you anywhere.
Yeah, agreed. All right. Well, Natalie, thank you. I learned so much. Miss you. I can't wait to go to the new spot.
Can't wait to see people. Hugs.
I know, I'm fully vaxxed, so I'm like ready to give hugs.
Yes.
Well, fuck it. Let's go get a drink. God dang it. All right. Well, I have to go fix the power at my liquor store, and you have to deal with paint swatches.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you want any more information, just go to our website, speed-rack.com, and follow us on social media if you don't already. And we're posting a lot more information about topics such as this all the time. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Really
Bye to your mom.
Back to me. Bye, Mom.
Bye. See you later.